Welcome back everybody to another session of practice. Today we are going to look at practice 3, Excel 3, where we practice using the if function, and we are also going to combine this with the AND function. The if function allows us to put conditions on one cell and get a resultant answer, especially if you have more than one answer you'd like or condition you'd like met. The AND function allows you to put conditions on different columns or different cells, but still put your final resultant answer into the one cell. So let's go ahead and work on the exercise. Get your handouts and we shall follow the exercise. First, we are supposed to create a file called Payroll and input the data shown. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to save my work to this folder called Practice, and I'm going to use a shortcut to creating the Excel file. I right click, I go to New, and I select the option Microsoft Excel Worksheet, and I will go ahead and type the name of the file. I press the Enter key and I enter again to open the Payroll file. So I'm going to go ahead and enter this data. Remember what we said: if you are working in Excel with figures, use the numbers keypad to increase your speed and accuracy in typing. Okay, one good function with Excel is the autofill. After you've typed some information in the column and you're going to repeat it, you don't need to repeat typing the whole word. You just type the first letter. Like I already typed the company butter and DFCU, so the next cell requires us to type butter. All I do is type the first letter and it will autofill or make a suggestion, and all I need to do after typing the letter B is press the Enter key and it will save that. I do the same for the next cell, which is DFCU, so I just press the letter D and it will autofill, and when I press the Enter key it remains in. So this allows you to enter your information quite fast without having to type all the data in. Okay, there we are. We have finished putting in our data, I'm just going to resize these cells so that the headers can clearly be seen, the headings for each column. I go between each of the cells and I double click to resize those cells. Okay, next we are supposed to make a copy of the worksheet, and we are supposed to call that copy salary. I am going to right click on sheet 1, right click, and I choose the option move or copy, and I make sure I select create a copy, otherwise it will just move the worksheet. Create a copy, and since we only have one worksheet, we are going to click the option move to the end. It will put it after sheet 1, and there is our copy, and we are supposed to rename this copy as salary. So I'm going to double click right there on the sheet name and I type salary and I press the enter key. So we've gotten a duplicate worksheet to sheet 1. We now have 2 that have the data that is in. So on this worksheet, we are supposed to compute the housing, medical, transport, gross pay, NSSF, and pay as you earn. So I'm going to go ahead and put the headings for each of those. Should use the tab key. Okay, we are going to go ahead and start with the housing. We've been told that housing is 30% of the basic salary. I'm going to use the method where we use absolute cell referencing. So I'm going to create some space at the top of my spreadsheet that allows me to put the 30% that we need to create to use absolute cell referencing. So I go to cell 1 and 2, I right click and I insert. This creates 2 blank rows above the data I just typed in. So above housing, I'm going to type 30%. That is what we are going to multiply with. So all these cells of basic salary will be referring to that cell at the top for housing, a 30% of basic salary. So we start our formula, and the formula is going to start with the equal sign, is equal to, we are going to go ahead and click on the basic salary times, and then we are going to go ahead and click on the 30%. And because we want to fix this cell, the one for the percentage, we want to lock it, we are going to press F4 on the keyboard, the function 4 key. You press it just once, and once you notice a dollar sign before D and a dollar before 2, then you know that that cell has been locked, and we are going to go ahead and enter. Once you enter, the formula has been registered, and we are going to use the fill handle to copy this formula all the way down. Next, we are going to work with medical. For medical, we are told everybody gets 250,000 for the medical allowance. So we are just going to input that amount, 250,000, and we are going to enter that into so that it registers in, and we use the fill handle to copy the same amount all the way down. I'm going to just increase this cell so that we can see the full word. Okay, so for transport, we are going to use the if function. We have 3 levels. For anyone earning a basic salary below 500,000, we are supposed to award 100,000. For those who are supposed to earn below 1 million, we are supposed to award 150,000. And for those earning, for the rest of them, we are going to give them 200,000. So we are going to use the first cell to guide us on the beginning if function. We are saying we first start by writing the if function. Start with the equals sign and we type if. Remember what we said. All functions have a bracket that come after them. So we type the if function and follow with the bracket. So we are going to start with the logical test. And the logical test is going to be the basic salary. And in this case, we are going to say is less than 500,000. Because that's what the first condition is, that the basic salary is below 500,000. So that's our logical test, and we follow it with a comma. And once you press the comma, it will show you the next item you need to put in, which is the value if our test is true. So we ask ourselves, if actually that person is earning less than 500,000, what value do we want to show? And we go ahead and type the value, and in this case it is 100,000. That is the value we want if our logical test is true. We put a comma, and it takes us to the next step. It shows us that now we are dealing with the value if false. And value if false means, what if this person is not earning below 500,000? We look at our conditions and we realize we have 2 more conditions. As long as you have more than one condition, you're going to start another if function. So we are going to go ahead and type another if function, and we open the bracket, and it starts another if function or an if process. So again we go with a logical test, and this time we are looking at the next level, which says basic salary is below 1 million. So we go ahead and click on the same cell we clicked the first time. C4 in this case is less than 1 million. Okay, so that is our next test, and we put a comma. So the comma pushes us to the next step. What value do we want if the person is earning less than 1 million? And we've been told that we are supposed to award them 150,000. So we've put in that value, and again we put a comma after we've put the value if true. And it brings us to the last section for value if false. What if this person or this cell doesn't have someone earning less than 1 million? And they tell us that for the rest, anyone who is not earning below 1 million, we are supposed to award them 200,000. So if you realize that you have only one condition remaining, you are supposed to put the value you want if that condition is met in the last cell, value if false. So we are going to go ahead and put 200,000 here. And that is the end of the function, and we are going to close this if function. Remember, we had opened another if function and this one, and we are going to start closing all of them at this point. One thing to note is pay attention to the color of the brackets that are closing. Usually the last if function will be black, so you want to make sure you match all the colors until you get to the final black if function. So I start with the first bracket, which is red, and that one matches with the one I've previously put in, which is red. So I'm going to close the next bracket, and once I put the next one, you'll notice that the function is complete. That one has the black one, and I'm going to click on the enter key, and it registers that formula, and we are going to use the fill handle to drag this all the way down. So that is our first example of the if function, and we shall continue practicing until you get conversant with that. Remember, you have different exercises to practice with. Use your question bank and practice using this, because many times when we do work in the office or with certain projects, you may have conditions that need to be met, and the if function can help you to achieve putting all those conditional arguments or conditions to your spreadsheet. Okay, so we are going to move ahead to the gross pay. Gross pay is going to sum the basic salary, the housing, the medical, and the transport. So we start with the equals sign, and we type the function sum. And don't forget your opening bracket. And after you do that, you're going to go and select all the 4 cells. Make sure you are precise and you are not selecting any cell below or to the left of the exact cells that need to be summed. We close this function, and we are going to press the enter key. Again, we use the fill handle to complete our function. Okay, we've been told that NSSF is 5% of the basic salary. So we are going to repeat the same absolute cell referencing we did just as we did earlier with housing. We are going to type 5% in the space above, and we click where we want our first calculation to go, and we start with the equal sign. This is equal to the basic salary times, use your asterisk. We click on the 5%, and don't forget to lock that cell. We press F4 once to lock the percentage cell, and we press the enter key. And we are going to use the fill handle to complete that too. Next, we work with pay as you earn, and we have been given a tax schedule shown below. We are going to use the if function. You will notice that the schedule has 5 levels of tax, and we are going to use the if function to apply the different levels of tax to all the different salary levels. And in this one, we are supposed to base our tax on the gross pay. So this is the column that we are concerned with. So we've said we are going to use the if function. So we go ahead and start our if function. We type if, and we open our bracket. Okay, let me just move ourselves this way so that we can follow what we are doing. Remember, we are concerned with the gross pay. So we are going to start with the first one. We are told that if the employee is earning 235,000 and below, so we are going to click on the gross pay, and we are going to say less than or equal to. We use the equals to sign because we want to make sure that that cell is equal to 235,000. That is the and. So that's 235,000 and below. We use less than or equal to. That's our logical test, and we put our comma. What value do we want if this is true? We have been told that these people don't pay any tax, so we are just going to type 0. The tax level is going to be 0, and we put a comma. And we go to value if false. So if the employee is not earning less than 235,000, what value do we want? We still have 4 options, so we are going to start another if function. If, and we open the bracket. And again, we are going to click on the logical test. The next level has those that are above 235, above excluding 235, and less than or equal to 335,000. So we are going to click on the same cell and is less than or equal to 335,000. That's the test. We put a comma. The value we want, if this is true, is 10% of the excess of 235. 10% of the excess. So let's start with the 10%. It's going to be 10% times, when they say of, it's times. And we're going to use BODMAS, brackets of division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. So let's open our brackets. The brackets are here to help us calculate the excess. So the excess is going to be whatever is in gross pay minus 235,000, because we've been told the excess of 235,000. And we close the bracket. So whatever is in that bracket is the excess of 235,000, and that is going to be multiplied by 10%. So that is the value we want if somebody is earning less than or equal to 335,000. So we are going to put a comma. We are done with the value if true, and it brings us to the next level of value if false. And we still have 3 arguments remaining. So we are going to start another if function. And we open our bracket. And the next level is all those earning 410,000 and below until we get to 335. So we are going to click on gross pay. And this is less than or equal to 410,000. That is the test, and we are going to put a comma. Next, we work on the value if true. And here we are told that this group of people are going to earn 10,000 plus 20% of the excess of 335,000. So we start with the 10,000. These people are earning 10,000 plus 20% of, we are going to multiply the excess. We open our bracket and we click on the gross pay minus the 335,000 to calculate the excess, and we close that bracket. So this is what this group of people pay: 10,000 plus 20% of the excess, which is in this bracket. And we are going to finish this value if true with a comma, and it advances us to the value if false. So if the next group of people are not earning this, what do we want? We have 2 more options remaining, 2 more salary levels. So we are going to start another if function. If, and we open our bracket. If whatever is in this cell is less than or equal to, and we see that the next level is 10 million. Make sure you put the correct number of zeros. Those are 7 zeros for 10 million. That is the logical test. And we put a comma, and it takes us to the value if true. What value do we want if this is correct? This group is going to earn 25,000. Let us type that in. Plus 30% of means times the excess. So for the excess, we open our bracket. We click on the same gross pay minus 410,000. And we close that bracket. That is what this group of people are going to earn. And we put a comma, and it takes us to the level of value if false. And this time we notice that we only have one option remaining, or one salary group remaining. This means we should not start another if function. Instead, we go ahead and put the value of that last group. What value do we want to, what tax should those people pay, or what value will those people, will the cell have to calculate? So the value over there says these people are supposed to pay 25,000 plus 30% of the excess of 410, just like the previous group. And in addition to that, they're supposed to pay 10% of the excess of 10 million. So let's go ahead and type that in. We start with the 25,000 plus 30% of the excess. Don't forget the times symbol. The excess of, we're going to click on gross pay, minus 410,000. Remember, this is similar to the last group, and we close the bracket. Plus, we are supposed to add on 10% of the excess of 10 million. So we open the brackets to calculate the excess. It's going to be gross pay minus 10 million. And we close our bracket. So that is the final value. Oops, I put 100,000 instead of 10 million. Go ahead and make sure you have typed the excess of 10 million. You want to make sure that you award tax fairly, okay? Not in a wrong manner. So that is 10 million. And we are going to start closing the if brackets. We are done with the last test. We've closed the bracket of the excess, and we are going to start closing the if function brackets. I start with the first one, the second one, I close another bracket, the third one, remember I'm looking for the black one, and that's the final one. And once you put the final one, the if, the formula that usually appears at the bottom will disappear, as it has done in this case, and we are going to press the enter key, and our function has been registered, or the argument has been registered. We use the fill handle to drag all the way to the bottom. Okay, so there is pay as you earn. And finally, we are going back to work with net pay, and the net pay is going to be equal to the gross pay minus the NSSF and minus the pay as you earn. So let's go ahead and calculate that. I'm just zooming in so that we can see what we are doing. This is going to be equal to the gross pay minus NSSF minus pay as you earn. And we are going to tick and use this to fill all the way down. What does this mean? It just means that we don't have enough space in the cell. You notice that my first cell has the letter E. It means that the text in this space cannot fit in the cell. So I'm going to go to the between the letters J and K, and I double click to auto size the cell, and it will fit in. Next, we are supposed to format all the currency to UGX. So I'm going to select all the cells that have text, that have figures, not text, sorry. All the cells that have figures, and we are going to go to the home menu, and under the general number group, I'll click under general and go all the way down to more number formats. And under the number formats, we get a screen that comes up. We are going to click on currency. We are going to change the decimal places to 2. You can use the down arrow, or you can go ahead and just type 0. And we are going to click where we have the symbol. Make sure your cursor is shaded blue in the symbol, and you're going to press the letter U twice. I press it the first time and it takes me to the currency UAH. I press U again and it goes down to the next currency UGX, and that is the currency I'm going to select. I click on it and I click OK. And it has changed the currency to UGX. And just as I said before, when the cells are not wide enough, you will notice the hashtag if you're dealing with numbers. The letter E if you're dealing with text, and if you're dealing with numbers or currency, you will notice these hashtags. So I'm going to double click. One way of auto sizing all the cells at once, click to select the whole worksheet. Notice where I have put my mouse. I've put it on the small triangle between the letter I, the row number 1 and the letter A. I click in that cell and I double click one of the cell divisions or column divisions, and it auto sizes all the cells. Okay, so we are done with formatting the currency. Next, we are supposed to rename sheet 1 as scale. So we are going to click on sheet 1, double click sheet 1, and we are supposed to rename this as scale, and you press the enter key. Insert a column between the company data and the basic salary to compute the salary scale. So we are supposed to put a column between company and salary. So I'm going to right click on the column C. Notice where my mouse is. I right click on the letter C and I choose the option insert, and this column is supposed to be named scale. Okay, we'll put that as the scale, and we are supposed to name the different salary scales as B1, B2, B3 and B4, but you will notice that B1 can also refer to a specific cell. B2 may be referring to this, so it's important for us to put these scales in quotation marks, such that double quotation marks, such that the computer knows that it is a text that we want to place in the scale and not a formula for a cell address. That is how we differentiate or show the computer or Excel that this refers to a cell address and not, this refers to a text and not to the cell address. So we are going to use the if function. We have 4 levels, so we are going to start our if function using the 4, and we are supposed to refer to the basic salary. Because the basic salary is on the right side of the column where we are putting our salary scale, it's important that you pay attention to the salary address, to the basic salary address, and in my case it is D2. I can see the cell address at this point, so I go ahead and click at this point. This is equal to the if function. I start with if and I open my bracket, and I'm going to go ahead and type the logical test, which is D2, and you notice that it has already selected the basic salary, and we are saying D2 is greater than or equal to 5 million. That is what we have been told. Greater than or equal to 5 million. And we put a comma. And what value do we want if this is true? We are at the next level of value if true. Open quotation marks and we put B1 and we close quotation marks. That is what we are going to register. Let me just zoom in. I hope you can all see what's on my screen. Let me just escape and zoom in so that we can all see what we are working on. I hope that's clear to you. So let's start again. Is equal to the if function, and we open, and this is the cell we are referring to. D2 is greater than or equal to 5 million. And we put a comma. The value, if true, is going to be B1, but we have to use a quotation. We have to use quotation marks to let the computer know that this is text that we want to be placed if this person is earning more than 5 million as basic salary. Then we put a comma, and it takes us to the next stage, which is value if true, value if false, value if false. And because we still have 3 more options, we are going to put another if function, if, and we open our bracket, and we type the next logical test, which is going to be D2. Remember, we paid attention to the address, the cell address for basic salary, and in this case it's D2 is greater than or equal to 1 million. And we place a comma, and the value, if we want, if this is true, is going to be B2, and we close our quotation marks, and we put a comma, and it takes us to the next level of value if false. We still have 2 more conditions that haven't been met, which means we have to start another if function. We start the if function, and we open the bracket, and the next one is D2 is greater than or equal to 500,000. We have been told if someone is earning above 500,000 but less than 1 million, including 500,000, we are supposed to award them B3. So we put a comma. We are done with the logical test, and we are supposed to award B3. Don't forget your quotation marks. And we put a comma. And that takes us to the final value if false. And in this case, we have reached the end. We are on the final level of B4. So we are not going to start another function, but instead we are going to go ahead and put B4 in that space. So open quotation marks B4, and we close our quotation marks. So we are done awarding all the different salary scales, and the final step is to close all the if functions. Start with the first one, second, and the final one, which is black, and we are going to press the enter key and use the fill handle to copy all the formulas all the way down. Good.